digital glitch issue. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Wade. I'm the community manager here at Outland. And I'm joined today by jonCates, who's someone who I've admired for a long time, but haven't had the pleasure of meeting before. And this is all happening because we've been publishing a glitch issue at Outland, guest edited by Rosa Minkman, talking and thinking about all things glitch, and really, the idea that glitch is not one practice or even set of practices. It's a really broad domain with which a lot of very, diverse kinds of artists work within. And we'll get into all of that in a second. But Jon, welcome, and thanks so much
Thanks.
for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Jon, can you tell us a little bit about where you are in your IRL studio here?
Yeah, so I am in Taipei, Taiwan, the nation of Taiwan, and Taipei is the capital city. So I'm here in what some folks call Asia. What Taiwan likes to say is the heart of Asia, because we're very centrally located. Island nation, which some of y'all might have heard about recently. For a number of reasons, which we may or may not get into, but just want to emphasize that I'm in the nation of Taiwan and its capital city, Taipei, where we have a democratically elected government and we're about to have some more elections. So,
Exciting times. Thanks.
possibly could go one of two ways. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you dialing in, so early, early in the morning by
No,
you.
it's great. I
Um,
love the morning. I'm a morning person.
that's so rare because normally when I talk to glitch artists or digital artists in general, y'all are night owls, up at all
Uh-huh.
hours coding away.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what happens when you become an old skull. You get a little bit more like into mornings, but actually I've always been into mornings because in the morning everything is possible.
That's so true. It's so beautiful. What a great way to start us off. I have a question for you, a burning question for you.
Ah,
Um, that I think in a lot of places you describe your own work as glitch Western.
hmm.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that means to you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, also there are a number of different ways that I could answer this. There's a number of ways that I've sort of already put out there in the world. And, Wade, I'll like look to you also for direction. You can tell me, okay, cool, that's enough of that side of things, and let's hear about another side of things. But basically, like Glitch Western is a genre that I created because I wanted to express the I have two central types of concerns in my art. And those two central concerns are my love of the Western genre and my hate of the Western genre. And I feel both of these with a real intensity. So I super love what we might just call like classic cowboy films and TV, and there's a reason for that, which I can explain. Um, and then also, yeah, I also have an intense hate or hatred, I guess, for the underlying politics, which are generally speaking settler colonial politics that are writ large in the Western genre. Yeah, so right, I can go into some more detail about that, but we're seeing Sierra Begay right now. She's from Dene Nation, which is what some folks call the Navajo Nation. And she is one of the stars of my feature film, which is called Ghost Town. And the beginning of the title is the word Ghost Town. It's in traditional Mandarin, and then it's in English after that. Traditional Mandarin is the language that is written and spoken here in Taiwan, where I live. Yeah, so Oh, weird.
No, yeah, sorry, my screen share is going all crazy today, but
Ah,
no, I
okay.
wanted to. It's a really beautiful piece. I love the film. It's an hour long. It's online. You guys can watch it. I'll link it in the chat underneath our stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Could I say just a few things about
please,
that? So,
please.
yeah, cool. Thank you. So recently I did put the full feature film on the internet, so anyone can watch the full feature film. There are also short films that I've made that are kind of remixes or takes that are connected to the feature, but the full feature is available online. The full feature is also available from the Video Data Bank, which is the official international distributor of the film. And I'm really fortunate to have been able to make this movie. I feel very blessed and to have been able to do that. I did that and finished the film, had a premiere at the Gene Siskel Film Center downtown in Chicago when I was still based in Chicago. And I did that before the pandemic in the before times. So that was in 2018. And then in like 2018 and 2019, it got to be shown all around the world. And again, in before times, I was able to actually travel around the world with the film and show it to people, like in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, and in Croatia, in Zagreb, so just like all over the place. And that was super fantastic. And really, I think for me personally, not possible anymore. So yeah, I just want to emphasize that I really feel blessed and lucky to have been able to do that. And thank everybody who was involved in that.
Really cool. It's sorry, I think I fixed my stream, but I wanted to show people just a little bit of texture from this
Mm,
film piece. I hope you don't mind. It's
mm,
really, really beautiful. And already just in the first 10 minutes of the film, we're seeing so many different kinds of digital processes kind of unfold on the screen. There was
mm,
recording of 3D models and rendering. I'm seeing, more traditional film content, probably some like film content, not digital
hmm.
film. You're working
That's
with as
right.
well as the source material.
That's
Plus,
right.
who even knows how many layers of software based After Effects. I'd love if you could describe a little bit about, first of all, what content you're pulling from in this piece, and second, how you're manipulating it and what some of your goals were.
Okay, yeah, sure. So this feature film, Ghost Town, is also the starting place for the Glitch Western. And back in 2016, I created what I call a dream sequence, which was an installation here in Taiwan, in Taipei, in a biennial show, a biennial exhibition that took place here. So they invited me to show my work, and that was really when I began to do this Glitch Western. So I did an installation in that exhibition on computers and screens and projection, which was a dream sequence of one of the characters from this film. Then that was like how I got started with this dream of making this happen. And then I thought, well, yeah, what I actually really want to do is not like some art installation. It's really a feature film. So I set out to make this feature film. And like you said, Wade, what I tried to do is pull in basically all of the media art histories that I am in love with and that I'm like connected to, that I feel genuinely a part of the conversation. So I wanted to bring all of those aspects of media art histories from the very beginning of cinema to like the most recent digital world that we live in. I wanted to bring all that together in this Glitch Western. And at the core of that is a criticism, a critique of specifically white masculinity. In other words, like myself. It's a critique of myself through the creation of this glitch Western, which attempts to glitch the Western. Also, more explicitly in my more recent work to also queer the Western. But that is also actually queering the Westerns already happening in the feature film, which I can explain if people want to know why. But the fact is that like there are these two fundamental unresolved traumas that are first and foremost the attempted genocide of First Nations, the indigenous peoples and nations in North America after contact. That's the first unresolved trauma that people in settler colonial culture are living with. Some people obviously are benefactors, like I myself am a benefactor of settler colonialism. So I have to take responsibility for that, and I have to reflect on that. This is my reflection and my taking responsibility. The other trauma is the industry of slavery. And so, again, there's another unresolved situation for someone from the nation state, now known as United States, like myself, who grew up benefiting from settler colonialism, and now is trying to unpack all of that in this.
Absolutely. And it's a really, it's a big challenge, obviously, unpacking this kind of rich history. But one thing that I think you obviously have going for you is the modality by which you're expressing these things. And one thing that has come throughout our glitch issue, especially in thinking about glitch as an ethos rather than as like a defined set of practices, is that a lot of the folks that we've talked to have really spoken about glitch as something that allows them to you know inherently break something down, or tear something apart, or restructure it, or reorient something in a way that makes more sense to our lived reality. A lot of glitch artists are actively breaking their technology or subverting the original intentions of that technology. And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to how glitch has played a role in your efforts to tackle some of these really huge issues.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that's really good. I am unlike some of the other people. Maybe I'm unlike all of the other people who you have featured in your glitch, yeah, issue, and whose perspectives you have heard from. So I am in some ways very different. One of my differences is that I'm not going to ever make any fundamental claims about the inherent qualities of glitch or glitch art, because I see through the uses of glitch by every conceivable imagination. So basically, like, anyone who can use glitch or make glitch art does, if they're interested, which means, like, we have no idea what will happen, and we have no idea what purposes it will be put to. And there are so many examples. I won't even like trouble everyone with all of the examples, but basically any political affiliation that you can imagine has probably used glitch aesthetics at some point. Now we can argue, oh, that's glitch aesthetics and that's glitch alike and that's not actual glitch. Okay, sure. But again, I'm an impurist. I'm an impurist, not a purist. So as an impurist, which is what sort of, underscores my love of glitch and glitch art, and the reason why I'm such an advocate for it always, everywhere, is that I believe that we can find beauty and brokenness. I know, Wade, that this is something that you're interested in. And because we are broken, something else that people might not know or think about with me is that I am a Catholic person. I'm actually a Catholic person. I'm not like a culturally Catholic person or a culturally religious person. I'm like an active practicing Catholic person. And that if you know that about me, you can start to see it in everything that I'm doing. So from a Catholic perspective, to get to the answer, Wade, there's a need and a desire for sincere contrition, to sincerely be sorry for something that you have done, or that you are in some way responsible for. And the sincerity of that contrition is sort of what can move us forward. Like, if you really are seeking to, to find that, then I think that can really motivate you. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and it's interesting, to hear how your, personal practices and history play a role in all of that. How did
Sure.
you how did you first come to start working with in digital formats, and what kind of attracted you towards um, the work that you're doing now?
Well, yeah, I mentioned earlier that I'm an old skull. So I was born in 1973 in the late analog era. So this transition to digital was a cultural experience of mine, like a very real cultural experience. I also learned computers beginning in elementary school when they were first brought into schools, when personal computers were first brought into schools, not when computers like we have to go back to the 1940s. But like for me, I learned DOS, and then my family, my dad was a musician, and so he was really excited about this SID chip. It's a polyphonic microchip that was built into the Commodore 64, which meant that you could like play polyphonic music on the Commodore 64. So my dad was real super excited about that. And our family's first computer was this Commodore 64. And I loved that computer so much. This is like in the 1980s. And it had just everything that you can imagine. And also it brought everything together. Sometimes I use a fancy word to talk about like what a computer does, and I say that a computer is a syncretic device, which means that it's a device or an environment in which everything can come together, because a computer or compute powers, like the general purposeness of compute powers, means that they can compute almost anything. That's the idea. So you can bring almost anything together and make something new. To me, that was just literally magical. And of course, we all know that magic and technology are two words for similar experiences that folks have. Yeah, here's some film that we're seeing right now. And some white violence that we're seeing, or the implication of white violence with the presence of this gun. And then, boom, some Catholicism. We're about to see the cowgirl eat an apple underneath this apple tree right by the grave. There we go.
You
There's
know
the
what?
apple.
All the Catholicism is really starting to. As soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh, the model of the apple at the beginning," and
Yeah,
I'm seeing this cross in the background, and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. It's really in there. And it took me a while to be able like to recently admit it to people, like explain it to people, because this it's not an easy fact for a lot of folks in our world, shall we say, to accept. But yeah. Mhm.
That's
So
awesome.
Commodore 64 is basically like how I got started. And another part of that story, which I can tell real quick, is that on the Commodore 64, there was a fantastic peripheral where you could save software. Also, where if you got software, you might get software for this peripheral. Now, this is the 1980s, and this peripheral was a cassette tape deck. And it was amazing. Literally, the name of this thing was Data Master. It was the master of data. And you take your cassette tape and you pop it in, boom, 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 chink, and you close the thing, and then right, the tape starts playing. And it's an audio cassette tape where the data from the Commodore 64 has been written onto the tape as audio, which the Commodore 64 is able to read. Now, this is a standard analog to digital process that is fundamental. But for me, I was like, oh, awesome. It has a tape deck. And that means that the software is also music. So I took the software tapes and I played them on my boombox in my room and listened to this like harsh noise, like like the kind of what you hear when you do sonification or if you open a digital file in Audacity. So, it's the 1980s and I'm a kid and I'm listening to this and I'm in love. I'm just like hardcore in love. I'm like, this is the music, and I want to listen to that music, which also is why I love noise music and why I make noise music as a noise musician. So yeah, it kind of all comes together with the Commodore 64.
Wow, that's such a great story, and it's really interesting history. I, I wish that I could play the sound through the stream, but the
Oh,
sound
it's cool.
share never goes through.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you also have a rich practice with noise music because a lot of forms of glitch involve introducing visual noise into
Yeah.
a software system. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about your musical practice or your audio based practice and how that relates to some of the visual glitches that you're producing.
Yeah. I mean, this might also be like a really good opportunity for me to say some hopefully nice things about some folks from Chicago, which is that the world of glitch art now understands that something special was happening in Chicago, and that then Chicago became a place that was important for the development of glitch art. That is all very true. And one of the reasons why is this rich musical, the many different rich musical traditions in Chicago, where I was based and where I did the majority of my work, up until fairly recently, having moved now to Taiwan. So in Chicago, the noise music in particular, or experimental electronic music, but the noise side of that was such a fantastic place for all of us. And I think I can just say that. I mean, that's how I feel. And I know this was true for so many people. And I also know that so many people had their first experiences of glitch or glitch art, what we now call glitch art, in the context of noise music, or at least what you would call experimental electronic music, but definitely the noise side of things. And the people that ran spaces, like Jason Soliday ran a space called Enemy, which was run out of his house, and he ran it for a long time. And without Jason opening up his home, really literally opening up his home to other people and having other people come in all the time. Sometimes noise shows at Enemy would be 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, like that was, and yeah, and we were going and playing and improvising and experimenting, and it was audio and visual and it was real time. Had the digital side, it also had the analog side. Super fantastic.
So cool. um and
Yeah.
it's and that's something that I think I also really appreciate about not to like put glitch in a glitch box, but like I feel like the glitch community has always been a really strong community throughout, like
Mm,
since message boards started popping up in
mm,
the maybe the late 80s and early
mm.
90s. um
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that's really cool to hear that you had that experience in physical space kind of like pre-pandemic to have
Mm.
that make that exploration.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And both simultaneously. So simultaneously, the physical noise shows, and then also internet life, which is real life. Like you and I, Wade, like we're having our real lives right now. Like you are actually you, and I'm actually me. And you care about what's happening right now, and so do I, because it's actually happening. We are having real life right now on the internet. So these are simultaneous. Like what was happening on internet for me is that in the 90s, when I start to make my art, I am, like you said, on listservs, which are email lists, and websites, which people are building themselves. And I'm encountering internet art. So, and learning like because I'm in university, I'm a student undergraduate student. And so I'm meeting on the internet the people who really are, yeah, heroes of mine. Natachka Nesvanova, Jody, Mez Breeze. So these people just profoundly opened my mind to what was possible with internet, like using internet as an art material and also as a context, as a community, as a space, and with actual people. Even though, like, one of those people, Natachka Nesvanova in particular, is a very, like, yeah, I mean, people back then, people were really curious, who is this person? Because there was also kind of mystery involved about who are the people. But when this is, early 90s when I got my first email address at university, it's just jonCates, So for me, I'm just jonCates on the internet.
That's awesome. It's super interesting. It's interesting too that you bring up net art because it seems that the history of net art is also kind of interwoven with the history of glitch in a lot of ways. And I think maybe some of the language that I used at the beginning of our conversation about purposefully breaking or subverting a system is actually probably like net art, like history training in me, like impeding
Yeah,
my, response to glitch. I don't know if you can speak to that at all. Kind of
yeah.
how net art and glitch art have co-evolved together over the years.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like we're maybe in about like a sixth generation of glitch art at this point. If it depends on how you want to look at the glitch histories, but for me, I look at like about 100-year span. And one of the important moments in that, obviously, one of the very important moments is Jamie Faye Fenton, and what she did in the 1970s in Chicago. So she is really where we need to start thinking about digital art and glitch art being together, or a glitch art that is digital. It's inherently digital because but also at that time, she was an expert in digital systems that she was creating herself, operating systems and games and software that she was programming for brand new hardware device, brand new personal computer. So that's a really important starting place for glitch art is what she did. However, then we get into like 80s, next, people that we talk about the 80s, but then in the 90s, what happens is this net art that you're referring to. So net art in the 90s has all of the excitement and possibility of any new technological moment. And technological moments are also always techno-social. They're always social. They're always about people at this point. I mean, probably fairly soon towards singularity, non-human actors are up there as well. But in the past, the technological moments were really like techno-social moments with people's communities and cultures. So net art is a super important community and culture to look at for where glitch art as we know it today comes from. Because yes, this idea of using a system against itself, or using parts of a system to take apart other parts of a system, reconfiguring things. But maybe at this point, I'll just say that for me, there's a very simple definition of glitch art. And so I'll just say that very simple definition of glitch art, which is that glitch art is the art of surprise. So this moment in which we are surprised, where we didn't expect something to happen, can really be emphasized in moments, cultural moments of technological change, because the technology comes along and we didn't know. So we have the old models, the old ways of doing things, and we map those onto the new ways of doing things. So the old gets mapped onto the new to make us comfortable, but also the new presents new possibilities that are unexpected or unheard of. They might be anticipated, people might have anticipated them, but they still might not know what to do or how to respond. Then, if you're an artist and you're in there in that moment, twisting and tweaking and undoing and redoing and reworking all of that material, which is really raw material as an artist, you have an amazing opportunity to surprise people. And this is what I think about glitch art, the art of surprise. You have this opportunity to really create a new experience that people didn't expect, to glitch their expectations.
I love that, to glitch their expectations. That's awesome. Um, how do you, after, how almost like, a 40-year marriage, how do you keep things surprising? How do you keep things exciting?
Well, Wade, let's talk about it. Um, I feel like I just try to stay curious like cats. That's what Jody said about themselves. They try to stay curious as cats. And I try to have that kind of curiosity. I'm not so fortunate as to have 9 lives, but sometimes you're curious about something and that was the wrong thing to go. That's the wrong path, friend. Might want to step that back. But generally, just kind of stay young at heart and curious about what can happen. There's that. That's just kind of like philosophical. But also about my love of cats. You might meet my cats at some point during this because, yeah, you might meet them. Anyhow, technologically, there's another side, which is that technologies are, in my opinion, material power and power materialized. Also, as Jenny Holzer taught us, abuse of power comes as no surprise. So we need to know that abusive powers will also be technological. At the same time, this dual use problem, which people are now talking about in the world of artificial intelligence, is that um, there's a more nuanced technological continuum between negative and positive outcomes. And all of this always means that there's always instability, there's always change, because that is actually one of the constant goals of the technological, is to produce this instability, to produce this change. Sometimes it's very dramatic change, and other times it's very gradual and slow, ubiquitous to the point that we don't notice it. Or it's very dramatic, and then a decade later, people don't even recall that there was another way to do things. So yeah, my point is this, that how do you keep it like fresh? Well, it is always unstable. It's it's always dynamic, Wade. It's like it's always changing, you know? And that's the beauty and the terror of it, right? It's that is also what is frightening, and we can mobilize that as artists.
Absolutely. This is great advice. I'm taking notes because I'm always looking for ways to keep it spicy.
Yep,
The thing that you mentioned, not to jump around too much, but something that
let's
you
do it.
mentioned earlier that you are interested in right now is a shift towards queering glitch. And that's really interesting to me because it's also something that a number of other guests have talked about. We've had a couple of, folks. I just spoke to Kate the Cursed
Mhm.
a few weeks ago, who was talking about how glitch was a really fundamental way that she's been able to, and her trans friends have been able to unpack their gender identity and various things, along that spectrum. So I'm wondering how, how queering glitch plays a role in your work.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Similar to the Catholicism, people might not be aware of the fact that I'm not a straight person. that there's reasons for this. I am obviously presenting as cis white het, but that part is incorrect. The het part is incorrect. So I'm bisexual, have been bisexual my entire life, which is just a core part of my identity, from as really literally as long as I can remember. This is who I am. So that makes me not a straight person. And in fact, I don't believe in straight people. I'm sure there's some nice ones out there. And I'm sure there's folks who feel straight most of the time, but I don't really believe in straight people. I believe that we are always on our own place in the continuum and spectrum, and those places that we're at are not fixed permanently forever. Like we, obviously also we have some fluidity, everybody, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. Okay. So because I'm not a straight person, but I pass as a straight person. I have this, and not that I'm trying to pass as a straight person. I'm not saying that, but because obviously somebody's trying to pass as straight wouldn't go out and tell everybody that straight people don't exist. But my point is just that, like, I see these complexities and I'm trying to bring those forward in my art. So this Glitch Western, Ghost Town, the feature film, and all the other films, right now what you're seeing is one of my favorite parts, which is this pretty punishing scene, punishing for the audience, where it's like very slow and the cowgirl walks across the ridge line. So this scene is called the ridge line, and she walks across the ridge line. In some of the original edits of this film, it was just straight looping this for a while. And there's actually one test audience that just like could not take this. So I made some changes. But in this scene, the ridge line where the cowgirl walks across, you can maybe, there's one moment where she turns and she looks and she positions her body, and you can see some curvature of her body that is female. However, there's a lot of other times in this film where she has this masculine cowboy kind of style. And cow folks, which also in Mandarin, which is cool, in Mandarin is not gendered. Cow folks, cowboy is cow folks in Mandarin. It's not gendered, could be either or both or neither, etc. So anyway, point is that, like, she is me in this film. Oftentimes, like when someone does writing or filmmaking, they write or they create a central character. There she is. She's the cowgirl, and she is me. We are the same. Emily Mercedes Rich is the actress, and she played the cowgirl. And she and I spent a lot of time together. And especially when we went out on locations out west, we dressed the same. So how she looks, I dressed exactly like her costume, and she's in costume. We both have those hats. We really have a kind of similarity because we're the same. So I think that helps to express what you asked me.
Absolutely, it does. That's
Okay.
the answer to the question. But I think, and it's just really fascinating because, you know, glitch is something that oftentimes materially feels very removed from humanness or removed from the body, or even maybe like per se like an emotional space. And it feels it sometimes it can feel like machine space, or maybe it doesn't feel that way, but it's perceived that way. So it's always really fascinating the ways that these technical processes and modes and ways of thinking about operating, correlate to actual lived human experience and everything in between. Super fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kate Kirst also talked about how it's a glitch as a site of like organic experience. And I can really relate to that, because if you go back to what I was saying about glitch art is the art of surprise, that surprise is an affective experience. It's like it's an emotional experience. And then we can rationalize and think about, oh, what happened? Oh, is it really broken or not broken? We can rationalize it and figure it out. But at first, there is this affective feeling of surprise. And that's the feeling that I really love, because it opens up a space for us to think new thoughts and have new experiences.
Totally. It's all about synthesis and genesis. And I think that that's the thing that is also very interesting about Glitch, because, especially in a film like Ghost Town, like which we're seeing, you're mixing very analog, very old, much older forms of media with hyper contemporary ones. And so
Yeah.
that's another I love to see.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm conscientious of the fact that I didn't quite answer that technical question earlier. Um, so yes, and in this film, what I really did is I ensured that all of the material you would see, you would really be seeing for the first time. So you do actually see film. But what I did was I purchased that film. It did not exist on the internet. So I didn't like download samples. No. I purchased actual film that was not on the internet, but was already in public domain. And then I digitized that. So I created my own samples, which is something that I've learned from music, because in music there are people who create their own samples. They write the music to sound like it's from another era, and then perform the music and even add affects of, like they add, for instance, like cut it to vinyl and then record the vinyl, so that it has a bit of texture. So this is very similar to what I did. I digitized those materials for the first time and then was able to sample them. There's other things that are not done that way, but this is a good example to explain to you like what I did to bring the older into the newer. And then here, for instance, this is in Unity, and the landscape is being rendered in real time in Unity, which is why, I mean, obviously the frame rate is low because we're watching it on a Zoom call. But like when you're playing the game, which is called the Ghost Town Spirit Simulator, and that's a game I made with Evan Meany, and you can buy that game and play that game on your personal computer, where you play as a ghost or a glitch, or maybe it's both. In that game, we are like rendering and unrendering, like bit crushing the world that you're in. So yeah, again, like you said, it goes from like film to like the most digital, but also highlighting kind of what can go wrong, so that it's kind of rendering in real time. But this rendering in real time is, and then you break through the surface of the ground, and except then now I'm overlaying it with other parts. But basically you see things kind of going wrong, and going wrong the right way, which is at the heart of what I'm trying to do.
Sorry, I'm just totally transfixed. I love this scene.
Mm.
It's really
Thank you.
beautiful. It's really beautiful to see, and I can't believe there's so much more I want to, talk to you about. I mean, the game is amazing. I encourage everyone to download and play at home. I'm a huge gamer, so I I've
Awesome.
a couple times. Uh,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
yeah, and I think something, I mean, that also we just talked about, this kind of uh inclusion of media across a lot of different time periods, and bringing different worlds together. But I think that another aspect, I mean, the fact that you are working on interactive pieces, there's also a lot of modalities by which the audience engages with the piece of glitch art, or
Yeah.
especially from in your body of work.
Yeah.
How which I think is really interesting. I think glitch is interesting because it seems to inherently, gravitate towards a multiplicity of modes.
Yeah, right. It's like that Stuart Brand quote, information wants to be free, but it also wants to be very expensive. So most people only repeat the first part, information wants to be free, and they're like, yeah, hack the planet, which is awesome. But also, information wants to be free, and also it wants to be very expensive. So, like, we now live in this world in which all of the digital art, for instance, glitch art did not begin in 2016. Glitch art did not begin in 2019. Glitch art did not begin in 2021. Like, glitch art did not begin with NFTs, or crypto art. There are these older, but not just, we shouldn't care because they're old, because folks generally don't care about things because they're old. They care about things for other reasons. So my point is just that over time, you do have these changes in what glitch and glitch art means. One of the important changes, probably the most important change over the years, is that people know what glitch art is. Like, Wade, we can sit here and have this conversation, and like people are going to click on it, let's hope, and also have opinions and thoughts and perspectives. So people know what glitch art is. That's amazing. For someone like me, that's incredible. And that is because internet changes everything, and internet makes all of this possible. So when you're an artist, any kind, but let's say digital artist, glitch artist like me, and you grow up in this transition to digital culturally, and you want to make art on the internet with computers, compute powers, you learn that really every possible modality is possible, can be brought together. And so that puts the choice on you. And sometimes, like, I try to kind of resist the narrowing of the decision. So I'm like actively resisting narrowing the decision. This has been kind of like one of my problems for as long as I've been making art. Like, I was a young artist, just get out of school, and the sage advice that all of the folks told me was like, you got to pick what you're going to do and do the thing that you said you're going to do. And, I was like, okay, or else maybe how about I do everything and anything that is actually exciting and interesting. So that is a hard challenge, because what it means is that I have to make that make sense to people. I have to make that coherent as world building, like as someone who thinks about all of their art the same way that a game designer or someone who's writing a piece of fiction thinks about creating. You have to make it somehow, and even if it's very nonlinear and experimental. William S. Burroughs, who was a bad man, but a hero of mine, but a bad man, okay? Straight up murderer, not a good person. And I met him, and he was amazing, fantastic, but a bad man. Anyhow, that guy was committed to this nonlinear writing, which he changed as a form for everyone really who comes afterwards. Even William S. Burroughs, when you read something that is all cut up and broken and glitched by William S. Burroughs, you still know that is by William S. Burroughs. And that is amazing. Like, that is such a big goal. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's what I'm always challenging myself to keep it spicy. Oh yeah, look, there's a horse. There's a glitch horse.
That's awesome. I wanted to share, as I ask you, I think our final question, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces from the Glitch Horses
Uh,
series, which I think just says it all.
uh-huh. Thank you. Yeah, this is a
Um,
good one.
So, that does bring me to, kind of something I wanted to close out with, which is, I also talked a lot with some of the other glitch artists throughout this issue about the current state of glitch art and the current state of how, artists who are working within the loose confines of this genre, are and how everybody's feeling. What's the general vibe? Can you tell us, how maybe how you're feeling right now in this moment?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm not sure. Don't know everything everyone has said in the glitch issue, but I have looked at it and in depth. Um, and yeah, basically, what will happen in the future of glitch art is whatever anyone can imagine, literally, like, because the people who are interested in creating glitch art, they will find a way, and that will be the glitch art of the future. Um, people in crypto or technology business like to say, well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the market will do. But we do, oh, yeah, there's some explosive change right there. But we do know um, that changes do occur. And we're right now, we're living in fourth industrial revolution. So that's also why my work looks to the 1800s, looks to the first industrial revolution to try to learn lessons and also see similarities and differences between first industrial revolution and fourth industrial revolution, the one that we're living in with age of AI. And the fact is that however you feel about non-human forces, they are very real and increasingly involved in most aspects of our lives. And so, future of glitch art, I think, will also always involve new technologies, such as non-human forces, a generative AI, machine learning, large language model. All of those are going to obviously be a part of what happens, but not just the non-human, really the human experience. And because we are these fallible um, entities, and this is this is our experience. It's not perfect. It's broken, and we piece it together and we make it make sense. It doesn't, all the pieces don't fit. The puzzle pieces are not perfect, just like we're not perfect, but we make it make sense. And sometimes we use nonsense to do that. So as artists, we use non sequiturs. We make jumps that are creative and experimental. We just try things. And yeah, that's what I think the future holds. More of that.
I love it. It's a really positive message. And yeah, I just wanted to, in our last couple of minutes, just showcase just some other pieces, outside of the film. Hey, that was less of a studio visit and more of a like guided director, producer commentary, which I loved.
Awesome. Cool. Behind the scenes
Yeah,
with Wade and John.
unintended, but excellent nonetheless. John, is there anything that you have coming up or that you want people to pay attention to look out for in the coming weeks or months?
Sure. So most recently, my work is The Secrets of Glitch. This is a way to think about my cross-chain experiments, The Secrets of Glitch. So those are going to be revealed over time across different chains, and each key unlocks other parts of the secrets of glitch, but they come together in a space called Ghostopia, which is a utopia for haunted spirits such as myself, and
Amazing.
hopefully you too.
Oh wow. Well, I'm excited to visit Ghostopia. Definitely count
Yeah.
me. I
Cool.
really appreciate you tuning in today and joining us. This has been really fun.
Thank you. Thanks
We'll
so
keep
much.
we'll keep our eye out for some of those.
Secrets.
Yes, exactly. Thanks, everybody.